Okay? Shememena bois midas toivish shebenever shabahamish shebiyisrael k'moshe kosev le'el. It's a very big point. That this world is this experience of very much challenge and struggle, but there is always that point of tov, that you can find God amidst the darkness, and that's why it becomes meaningful, because there's free will. That is called klipas noga. It's a klipa that's a mixture of getting lost, i.e., everything about, remember we mentioned just eating kugel, going on a walk on the beach. I can either just get lost in the physicality of it, or I could use that as an opportunity to connect to God.
What is it? Sorry.
Klipas noga.
Yeah.
It means everything in the world that is not usher. Literally the words mean klipa is a shell. Shell is always a code word for obstruction of God. It's a term we use in Kabbalah, shells. You hear about this klipas, the klipas. Oh, there's so many klipas. I can't klipas, klipa city. Klipas everywhere. Klipa, like, oh man, I can't go to that place. Like, you want to come to the club? Bro, it's klipa city. I want to go to the club. It's klipas everywhere. It means obstruction of God. So klipa means obstruction of God, but noga means something with light. Noga means light. So this world is your classic klipas noga. There's so much obstructing God, but at the same time you can find God. That's klipas noga. It's all the things that are not usher. There's nothing prohibited about it. It's not an intrinsic mitzvah either. It's klipas noga. It's a lot of obstruction. Be careful. But really, if you can find God in that place, you're doing the purpose of creation. You're revealing God down here in this world. That's our job. So this klipa we have inside of us, and our animal soul comes from that place. Which means even our animal soul is a mixture of good. Our animal soul generally tells us to just be animalistic. But it has good to it. That's why the Gemara says that Shloisha Midas La'umazu, there's 3 special qualities to Yisrael that were Baishanim, Rachmanim, and Gergmei Chasodim. We have a lot of... Baishanim means more than embarrassment, it means we're very sensitive. We don't like doing things that would not be appropriate or in good taste. Rachmanim, we have a lot of compassion, very naturally so. And Gergmei Chasodim, we do crazy chesed. Just look at the gemachs in Klal Yisrael. Insane. We've spoken about this before. Anything you need, we have a gemach. My favorite one was, my wife was showing me, and they write them like in really nice language. Is your baby having a hard time with that pacifier? Don't worry, because we have 500 different types of pacifiers, maybe the exact one that will fit your... And all totally sterilized. Just go to building 124 inside the electric box, and you'll see they're all like hanging there, like in perfectly sterilized bags. And don't try to clean it. You just return it, and we'll sterilize it for you. And you're like, what? Thank you. Yeah, we're actually having problems with that. Like, thanks so much for having that available. Are you having a hard time nursing? Oh, don't worry. There's a freezer in building 427 that actually has in the freezer mother's milk. A gemach of mother's milk that will give you mother's milk. That women who have an extra, they donate it to this gemach. So there's always mother's milk, exactly like portioned out. You can come and just pick it up. You know what Ettlinger's doing? Yeah. Unbelievable. Beyond the fact that he's like organizing all you guys going to help out with people. He came to me. He said they now have like this empire of chesed. He says we've got. It's like Moshe. We've got, like for like a businessman who came over, you should know. There's like 9 freezers in strategic locations, stacked with ready-made, like already in the containers, fleishik dinners, and kugels, and challahs, and baked foods. He's like, they're always there for anybody that just needs, you're overwhelmed, you just had a baby, maybe there's some stress in the family, you just literally push the button, someone will come to your house, drop off ready-made things, flavored everything. Just put it in the oven and you have food. The Yidden do this. It's like in our DNA. Okay? So that is even in the animal neshama of a Yid, there's a feeling of like we need to do chesed. We need it. It's like in us. Okay? Now, the Klippas Noga part of us will do chesed, but we want a bit of recognition. The godly soul part of us will do chesed without any need of recognition. Now, it's still a good thing that we do chesed, even if there's recognition, because people are benefiting from it. It's much higher, though, when you can do it from the godly soul, where there's no need for recognition. Hashem wants this to happen, so I'm going to do it. A classic example is somebody wants to give tzedakah. So how much you want to give? $10 million. So he's getting ready to cut the check. He said, just one thing. You're going to put my name on the building, right? And he said, actually, I was thinking maybe we're going to leave it without a name. It's like, oh, let me see that check. Thank you. So if the guy still says, I'd be willing to give it even if my name wasn't there. Now, there's no problem having your name on the building. And for many cases, that actually might be an additional mitzvah because other people see it, so it encourages other people to give. There's such a thing. Oh, he gives. Oh, I'll also give, even if you're also doing it for your name. But it'll encourage giving and giving and giving. If you give $10 million to a Torah institution, it's going to disseminate God's wisdom around the world. You're doing good things.
It's also showing like haughtiness and stuff like that. Like I need my name out there for everyone to see.
It's true. So if it does that, so it's coming from Klippas Noga. It's coming from the animal soul, which is this mixture of Tov and Ra. But it's still good. At the end of the day, though, the person who can give, the person I mentioned, that gives $100 million stuff, he doesn't know he needs to know anything. People just give and give and give. I don't need to know. Which is the highest form of tzedakah. Is the person who's getting it doesn't know where it's coming from. And even the person that's giving it doesn't know where it's going. You know why that's such a high form of tzedakah? You might think, isn't it a nice thing when I give the poor person, I see the poor person?
He feels like the guy owes him something.
So there's that element. There's that. Well, what about the other direction? That I shouldn't know.
So you don't feel
Or
like
I-
it's in that person.
What about the person doesn't know, but I know where it went?
You see him, you see the institution.
Oh, you feel like you're like.
You
paid
feel
for it.
good.
You paid
No,
for it.
I paid for that kid's tuition.
Yeah, you feel good about that.
Yeah,
You hear that's
Yeah,
that's
no,
sophisticated.
But you gotta make sure it's
Never
also
should've
not- it's like a-
Yeah, no, it's going to go to the right place. It
It's
has
legit.
to always go to the right place. But there's an element of like,
Yeah, no, you're right.
like I did this, like I feel good about that it went there, and I sort of pay attention, even if he didn't know that it came from me. But from afar, I'm like,
It's like,
it picks me up. But I have no idea where it went. So how do I feel like, oh, I feel good about that.
Feeling all from the animal soul.
That feeling that we're talking about now is from the animal soul. It's a good thing because our soul is coming from Tov and Ra. That's powerful. That's what the Gemara says in Kesubos. The Shloisha Midas Be'umazu, that we have these three character traits even in our animal soul, in our DNA. There's Rahman B'Hashem L'Gem L'Chasadim. That's in us. But you want to be a Goy Mel Chesed from your Neshama, from your Nefesh HaLekis, from the godly soul. That type of giving is mamish. Rav Yol always has a story of Shlomo, that many things, but just one that always sticks to me. He was at Rav Yol was at one of Rav Shlomo's concerts. It took like a long time to get to the stage. He was always saying hi to everybody, trying to make people feel good. And then one Yid came over to Rav Shlomo before the concert. It's like, Rav Shlomo, do you want me to draw a picture of you? This is like a certain Yid in Yerushalayim. And he would go to people and draw pictures of them. Like a bit of a miskane, draw a picture and maybe give a few shekels, whatever. And the Shlomo looked at Rav Yol, he's like, Rav Yol, does he need money? And Rav Yol said he could use it. So he said, come back after the concert. So after the concert, the concert person came over to Shlomo and gave him Rav Yol said it wasn't like a wad, it was like a ball of money. Like a ball, literally, whatever would fit into a ball of money. And Rav Shlomo put it into his pocket. A A few minutes later, this Yid, like where the ones who are drawing the pictures came over to Shlomo, you want a picture? So Shlomo just looks at this, takes his pie, he doesn't even look at the thing, he just take whatever was there. It could have $100,000, we don't know. He just said, it's for you. It's for you. Like, there's an element of just, you need something. That's something from a very high place. Shlomo did many things like this. And many times he didn't need to know the people, anything, just somebody needs. There's an element of just giving from a very high place. Okay? Now, this is important. V'hi b'chinas memutzas ben sholosh klipas atmeis legamrei u'ben b'chinas madregas ha'kedusha. Your nefesh habahamis, which is the klipas noiga, is between your godly soul and between sholosh klipas atmeis. And that's why, because the klipas noga is in the world between total mitzvah and between total avera, it can actually go either way. You see that? You have total avera, shalosh klipas tameis, obstruction of God, which you cannot find him there, going into an idol worshipping center. You can't say, yeah, we're going to find you in there, Hashem. No, he's obstructed there until Mashiach comes. Eating treif, obstructed. Then you have total mitzvah. Then you have right in the middle klipas noga, which if you use it properly becomes a mitzvah. But if you don't use it properly and you obstruct God through it, you just binge on kosher food. It gets pulled into shalosh klipas tameis. It becomes an obstruction of God. Like it says in Psalm Zohar. And really what can happen, it could go up into holiness. When the good point in the klipas noga is found, it is touched in that kugel, it's kosher, and you say, Hashem, I want to find you in this kugel. Nisbar me'ara, look at this lashon. This is all Kabbalah here. It is separated from the ra, separated from the klipa part that's obstructing God. I'm eating the kugel. And really that should be something that just makes me more of an animal. I'm just eating food, keep the body going. No, I found you in that food by thinking about you during the eating, by saying brachas, all the things that the Yam Darkech is taking us through, let's say in Achila. I pull out the God point in the food, the part that obstructs God for the food falls away, and that point inside the kugel, so to speak, goes into mitzvah. On the walk on the beach. It could have just been an opportunity to space out or think, what a world of a random, mutation. So that could have been an opportunity that just total obstruction goes into just more obstruction of God. Or I could have pulled out what a world that was designed by a creator. All the part that was obstructing it falls away and that point gets elevated to God. That's what it means. This sbar, it's refined out. Mehara, the goyver, the oil of the nichlam, the kedusha. Kagoin, b'derech mashal. Like, for example, ha'oichel bisru shmeina. Look at this example. Like a person eats very geschmack of fleischiks, Kobe beef, some good stuff. Even though somebody told me that he went somewhere to get it, and it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. It was just a piece of steak. There might be a machlekes in that, but... So the Gemara says, a person has a good meat, or he has spicy wine. Now you see where we get it from. Marbled meat and spicy wine. Okay? Why? Because when I have a good piece of meat and a good glass of wine, there's a certain settledness. You know the feeling when you have a good meal and you just and you spend the whole meal thinking about Hashem? Your mind is like settled to really learn something, to really be there if you did it properly. Wine has a settling feeling. That's why on Shabbos, when you have a little bit of wine and you have a little bit of meat, there's a feeling like, now I'm open to all the divrei Torah that I'm about to say. Now I'm open to all the spheres. If a person just has the wine and meat and doesn't sing anything or say any words of Torah, then he took that meat and wine and he pulled it into the shalosh klipas tameis. Because what'd you do? You just had fancy meat, nice wine. For what? Because you're allowed to. It was kosher. That just makes it totally hidden. It obscures God. But if you take that and you say there's a point in here that's going to connect me to Hashem, it becomes a mitzvah gedolah. And the Gemara talks about this. Kedama Rava, like Rava said, look at the Gemara up in Yuma, Ayin Vav days, that he would have very nice food, Chamra v'reicha, good wines, and it helped them to understand the learning better. Oh, look at this. Dishvil kadei l'kayim mitzvah signing Shabbos, the Yom Tov. Now I want to make a deal. The Deval Tan says oi. It means that you can also do this during the week. Oi means you could eat Shabbos food because that's totally connected to Hashem. But that was the second thing. The first thing is you can have good meat and good wine and connected to Hashem and understand you're learning better. And sometimes, yes, when a person has a good Suda, he's a good night Seder, like settled, you stay in the basement just late. I used to tell you guys that on Thursday nights, I used to learn a certain shiur late. So I'd always have a nice meal before because you're like settled. There's no question like, do I really need to eat it? No, you're done. You had a nice Suda, a nice whatever, something flavor, and then the rest of the night you just stay in the learn Torah. There's no like, you're settled for a night of learning. Oh, there's something else called Onik Shabbos, which means that the first one could even be during the week. You have to be honest with yourself. You can't, probably going out for fancy dinners every night is not actually for Hashem. So each person is going to have to see, but this is all Klipas Noga. Use the Klipas Noga properly. And then when you take out the life force inside the basar, the fleishiks of the yayin, that meat, until you ate it properly, was getting its life force from Klipas Noga. The second that you ate it properly, look at this, the oile lashem ka oile ka korban. That's called giving a korban. You extracted out the point of godliness in it, and you brought it up to Hashem. You offered it up to Hashem. How did you do that? By thinking of Hashem during the Suda, by focusing on the flavors that are really coming from you, Hashem. Gevaldik. What about jokes? A clean joke, obviously. Says the Tanya Shiur. Person that says a joke. You should know that tzaddikim are joking all the time. Ichimai is like always telling guys jokes when they come to the Rebbe. Everything jokes. Tzaddikim laugh a lot, like jokes. Why? L'fakech daito, l'samech liboy la'Hashem l'teirasa, l'avoidasa. So tzrich liyois b'simcha. Kamosha also Rava. Rava, the Rebbe, would always teach his students, l'talmidav, she'amar l'fnei mils b'dichusa, tchila v'bat cherabon. He'd always say a joke at the beginning of shiur to get the oilam warmed up a little bit. Everybody knows you hear a good joke, something funny. You let your guards down, and then the Torah just goes in. That's why the rabbis, good ones, are very funny. They've got a way of. Rav Gav is so talented. I look up to him tremendously because his humor is so good. He's a genius, and his humor is so good that when he finally brings the point that he's getting across, it goes in so deep. I always love listening to Rav Gav. He just hit me so nicely. It's beautiful. So Rava would do that also. And Bat Rabbanon, the Rabbanon were always funny. They're always making jokes, telling stories. That's the way that Torah is supposed to be learned. In a way that's leibendig. The things are leibendig, so you let them. So that's all Klipas Noga. Is there a mitzvah to tell a joke?
Yes.
Well, when you do it for a mitzvah, then it becomes a mitzvah gedolah.
Isn't there that Gemara that the two people were walking who were comedians and they said who's getting home?
That's right. They were saying they were in the shuk and they asked Aliyah Novi, they said, who here in the shuk is going to the world to come? And he pointed to the clown. He's making people happy. Which is a very big thing. When a person is happy, essentially everything good can come forth from them. If everything is cold and dry, it's hard to learn Torah. That's what the Rabbanan, Rava was a very religious person. He's telling jokes. It's known the Rav Shitzer was hilarious. Rav Gurzy is hilarious. The Rabbanan all the time, leibendig, mamish. It's a very, very important thing to have jokes, to be light, because things go in. When things are light, now, obviously it doesn't mean anything that's an usser joke. Why? Because that's Shalosh Klipos Tmeis. You can't, let me use a real usser joke for Hashem. It's going to really get guys' attention. That's usser. But in that area where it's not usser, it's mutter, but it's not a mitzvah, you turn it into a mitzvah. But if a guy just stam says a joke, he just heard a joke. He just like stam, maybe for attention, it wasn't to do anything positive. That joke could also go into Shalosh Klipos Tmeis, because it just brought more concealment to the world. Klipos Noga is using everything in this world, everything, that's mutter, everything, for Hashem. And this is a major Hasidic philosophy. Everything in this world that's mutter, if you use it properly, you can turn it into a mitzvah. And that's why you could start going through life where you're always thinking about Hashem. We should be zayich to this. Amen. Amen.